If someone told you an unnamed artist who produces, engineers, writes, and performs their own music went platinum with their debut album at 24 years old with 2 multi-platinum singles, you'd think this artist was well on their way to legendary status in the hip-hop world. It's only when you find out this person is Sicilian-American artist Russ that you would roll your eyes and possibly slap the person who baited you into saying Russ is a talented and successful artist. Despite having many of the qualities that make for a celebrated hip-hop artist, Russ is quite the opposite. To the average fan, the name Russ is synonymous with cockiness, arrogance, and corniness, with his controversial statements in interviews and tweets getting more attention from neutral hip-hop fans than Russ's music itself. Considering his commercial success, musical ability, and business savvy, the amount of hate that Russ gets is truly wild and in need of a breakdown, which we're here to give you. Let's start with Russ's origin story. Born Russell Vital in New Jersey, Russ moved around a bit as a kid before settling in Atlanta. After his dad taught him guitar, he taught himself several other instruments before getting into performing and recording his own raps. Hip-hop loves a good self-made story, and while it doesn't seem like Russ grew up poor or troubled, his hustle is commendable. Between 2011 and 2014, Russ dropped 11 free albums and then founded his own label before getting signed to Columbia Records in 2016. The leverage that he built up with his back catalog and sturdy fan base helped him get a favorable deal, something he's very proud of and is detailed in his sit-down with the Complex show, Everyday Struggle. Russ's hip-hop influences include G-Unit and Eminem, and his raps are self-assured and defiant on frequent topics such as heartbreak, doubters of his independent grind, and his unending ambition. He pairs his raps with an airy crooning style of singing, and it really gives his songs the commercial appeal that has made singles like What They Want and Losing Control the hits that they were. As Russ' profile was bubbling, he earned the respect of many media outlets after the success of his one-song-a-week approach on SoundCloud. His work rate and self-sufficiency gave him a reputation that could easily be appreciated by rap fans of the social media era, as well as old heads. Again, up until 2017, it seemed like Russ is getting everything right, and the tidal wave of hate he would soon receive came in bad faith. But the beginning of the Russ movement stems from a statement made in September of 2017 that set the tone for much of Russ's relationship with the hip-hop community for the next year and a half. After a show, Russ tweeted a now famous picture of himself in an anti-drug shirt with the slogan that reads, "How much Zans and leans do you have to do before you realize you're a loser?" Unsurprisingly, the generalized statement that people with Xanax and codeine addictions are losers rubbed many people the wrong way, including rappers like the late Chicago driller Fredo Santana, whose level-headed response about dealing with violent trauma in his life contrasted the condescending tone of Russ's message. Even if the statement was meant to be directed at recreational drug users who primarily do drugs to build a brand or be cool, the slogan was too open-ended and still came off as preachy rather than helpful. In the same month, Russ appeared on the Complex show Everyday Struggle with DJ Academics and Adeska. In an otherwise insightful interview about industry politics and the importance of leverage for independent artists, Russ ended the interview by bringing up a back and forth he had with Adeska via email. In an attempt to get on the show to discuss a recent Complex post about him, Russ reached out to Nadeska, who replied by saying, "The guys aren't entertaining too many guests right now," saying she'll keep him posted. In their sit-down, Russ inaccurately accused Nadeska of saying they were having 0 guests, which he then says she lied about since they had a guest the week after. With a screenshot of the email displayed for viewers, it was clear that Russ had misread the email and was wrong to come at Nadeska. But it wasn't the misunderstanding that made Russ look bad. Russ asserted that he wasn't upset about the situation because his life is phenomenal came off as a dishonest deflection, especially since he brought the issue up on camera and very late into the interview. When asked by Nadeska why he raised the minor issue so late, Russ responded by saying he just remembered it, which is fair, but also suggests he cares way too much about this small perceived insult and being right. When academics calmly suggested that Russ go about future frustrations differently, Russ rejected the suggestion, saying he doesn't care who hates him as long as he has fans. From a money standpoint, he's right, but in terms of treating people with respect and holding himself accountable for negative interactions or incorrect statements, his approach is immature. Much like his version of anti-drug advocacy, the same tendency towards sweeping generalizations about hip-hop culture fueled wave number 2 of the Russ movement in the spring of 2018 when a Vlad TV interview he did in January 2017 resurfaced. In the interview, he solely blamed producers for most mainstream hip-hop lacking in sonic diversity, claiming rappers are powerless in challenging the soundscape of hip-hop because they are given the same kind of beats to rap over and over again. On an even more controversial note, Russ claimed that the best producers of 2016 and 2017 only looked great because legends such as Dr. Dre and Timbaland were less active, equating new producers to the tallest midgets in an elevator when the taller people have left. Russ's claims in that interview obviously did not go over well with some of hip-hop's premier producers, including TM88, Cardo, and all-star hitmaker Metro Boomin, who tweeted the now famous pic of him holding a card that reads, "Russ is whack," which he clarified to mean whack in spirit. If we look at Russ's statements on hip-hop culture objectively, there are some good points and some serious flaws. On one hand, his status as a newcomer to rap's major league, along with his identity as a white artist, undermined all the public critiques he's made about hip-hop in his career thus far. There's no denying that Russ is talented and a student of the game, so to blame some of the hate Russ gets on his whiteness is valid. His willingness to stand by his statements is admirable too, with his response to his anti-drug shirt being, "If I stopped one kid from abusing Xans or lean, mission accomplished." Among Russ's main goals are to preach artistic independence and rebel against negative trends pushed by the music industry, and he's still accomplishing those things despite his heavy-handed approach. On the other hand, Russ's arrogance separates itself from the boastfulness of most rappers because he goes out of his way to discredit people in ways that most other successful rappers do not, like in his approach to Nadeska or drug-using rappers. His me versus them mentality is somewhat based in truth and keeps him motivated, but it's also based in Russ's self-isolation from the hip-hop community. Objectively, production in hip-hop as a whole has evolved over the years. Not to mention every era of popular music has several main sounds that most producers of the time just kept recreating with common formulas. For example, most producers in the 1990s were not innovators like Dr. Dre or Timbaland. Also, for as many face-tatted drug-influenced rappers there are in hip-hop, so many hot artists today simply are not that. It isn't really Russ's arrogance that makes people hate what he has to say. It's his belief in a cliche story about what's wrong with hip-hop, a belief that he bases his whole brand on. While much of the hate Russ gets can be attributed to mob mentality, there are still some obvious reasons while the self-proclaimed king of SoundCloud deserves the fierce criticism he gets for his attitude towards hip-hop culture. That being said, Russ is unlike most artists who are known for prematurely running their mouths because he has continued to make winning moves in the industry. His confrontational second major label album Zoo debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 in the fall of 2018 and received generally positive reviews. Russ also recently got a beat placement and a feature on Snoop Dogg's latest album I Wanna Thank Me on a song called Take Me Away, which also features Wiz Khalifa. Currently, the hate for Russ has receded due to a lack of statements to react to and more hate-worthy recent events such as 6ix9ine's legal debacle and Azalea Banks' rant about Lizzo. If Russ keeps up his musical output and learns from the drama of his rise to fame, he probably will never be as hated as he once was in 2017 and 2018. But with the same attitude and potentially more fame, another unfiltered Russ statement might set his image back a couple of steps. Not that Russ cares, but it would be a shame for someone as hardworking and consistent as Russ to not be enjoyed by more people just because he chooses not to reflect on his actions. This has been a HipHopMadness original. Make sure to stay tuned and stay up to date with everything we got going on by hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HipHopMadness and join the movement.